Welcome back, young scholars. In this video, we will be discussing the Maya civilization. So the big questions that you should be able to answer after watching this video are: first, how were the Maya organized politically? And second, were the Maya bloodthirsty barbarians or sophisticated stargazers? So the first question you should be able to answer is, how were the Maya organized politically? So first of all, we need to understand the geography of the Maya civilization. So the Maya civilization formed on the Yucatan Peninsula in the Mesoamerican region during the Classical Age. So here's the Yucatan Peninsula. Now that includes modern-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize. So if you're going to buy a plane ticket to go visit some Maya ruins, that's where you're going to head to. Maybe Chichen Itza outside Cancun in Mexico, or maybe Tikal in Guatemala. The Maya reached their peak between 300 CE and 900 CE, which means that they were at the sort of latter end of the Classical Age and then the beginning of the age of transregional interaction. So the Maya civilization was divided into many individual city-states, like Chichen Itza and Tikal. They all shared a common language and culture, so you can see all the various city-states on this map spread out across the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, the one similar thing about each of these societies is they all, again, shared this common language and culture. But each city-state had its own unique ruler, its own social system, and not surprisingly, they oftentimes were at war and conflict with one another. So this scenario where we have these independent city-states with a common culture, common language, but then their own unique, distinct political and social system should sound familiar to you. It should hopefully sound a little bit like the Greeks, right? Remember, with Sparta and Athens. Were the Maya bloodthirsty barbarians, or were they sophisticated stargazers? So the Maya made a number of significant accomplishments, and you can remember these using the acronym Maya. M stands for mathematics, the A is architecture, the Y is year. That also hopefully will trigger you to start thinking about the calendar systems that they developed. The last A is for astronomy. So the Maya created a complex system of mathematics, and here's how the system worked. 1 dot equaled 1. 2 dots equals 2. 3 dots equals 3. 4 dots equals 4. A line represented 5. A line and a dot equals 6. A line and 4 dots equals 9. 2 lines equal 10. 2 lines and 2 dots equal 12. 3 lines and 3 dots equal 18. A loaf of bread with a dot on top represented 20. And so the number system that the Maya used was a base 20 number system, rather than what we use, which is a base 10 number system. So they added their 0 to serve as a placeholder when they got to the number 20, whereas we add our 0 when we get to the number 10. So the Maya understood and used the concept of 0 and use it as a placeholder, and that's really significant and very advanced. If we can compare this to another classical age society, the Romans, so anyone who knows Roman numerals know that they didn't actually utilize the concept of 0 or have a placeholder in their system, and that's ultimately why Roman numerals never worked as a successful system of mathematics. So this number represents a dot on top of another dot represents 21. 1 dot in the 20s place, 2 dots in the 1s place represents 22. 1 dot in the 20s place, a line and 4 dots in the 1s place represents 29. 2 dots in the 20s place, 1 dot in the 1s place represents 41. 1 dot in the 400ths place, because 20 times 20 is 400. 1 dot in the 20s place, 1 dot in the 1s place represents 421. So it's kind of fun to just learn a new mathematics system. The Maya built these massive stone step pyramids. Each of the various city-states would have one of these pyramids at the center of their city, and they served as religious centers and palaces for the ruler. And these pyramids were designed really with nature in mind. So for example, this is a pyramid at Chichen Itza outside the modern-day city of Cancun, and it has exactly 365 steps. in this pyramid, which represented the number of days in the solar year. The Maya understood that. The Maya also, during the spring and fall equinoxes, would get together, and this would happen. They built this pyramid so that the shadow would form the shape of a snake, and you can see the snake's head down here. And this was considered one of the Maya gods. So they literally created gods at these temples where they were worshiping. So during the spring and autumn equinoxes, the sun creates this snake-like pattern on the temple, and the snake represents one of the many Maya gods. And so very, very, very well thought out, well planned, build this particular feature into their architecture. Very cool. Another kind of unique aspect of the pyramid at Chichen Itza is if you stand back from it and you clap your hands, this is the sound that it makes. So it echoes off the building, and it sounds very similar to the call that a quetzal bird makes. And quetzal birds are native to that particular region in Mesoamerica. Here's the quetzal bird, followed by the clapping sound again. So was this done intentionally, on purpose? I will probably never know, but it's very cool nonetheless. So the Maya also created a complex calendar system. They were very into tracking time, and they tracked dates over a short period of time on something known as their calendar round, and this system repeated itself every 52 years. So essentially they had a system that counted the days of the week, like ours, days of a month, and also days over a year-long period. And so this cycle would repeat itself every 52 years. So they kept track of time on kind of a short-term basis, but they also kept track of time on a long-term basis. And that was using a system called the long count calendar. And how the long count calendar would work is each day represents a baktun. Once you get to 20 baktuns, then you add one katun. Once you get to 20 katuns, then you add one more tun. Once you get to 20 tuns, then you add one vinal. Once you get to 20 vinal, you add one kin. And this system continued to count up and up and up and up. And on December 21st, 2012, that was the day that apparently the Maya predicted the world would end. And really, there was no historical basis for this claim that the Maya actually predicted this, but it was a very important date in the Maya long count calendar. It was the date where we reached 13 kin, 0 vinal, 0 tun, 0 katun, 0 baktun. And so a very important date in the Mayan calendar. Now the Maya were also very into astronomy. They made important contributions to astronomy. They built planetariums like this one at Chichen Itza, where they were able to track the movement of the stars and the planets. And they correctly calculated the solar year at 365.24 days. So they were very accurate in terms of their understanding of the time that the Earth took to cycle around the sun. They also understood when solar eclipses and lunar eclipses would take place. And so they would hold ceremonies and rituals on those days. So the Maya also developed a complex written language system. You can see here these kind of unique symbols. And their system was both a pictorial system, but it was also a system made up of various syllables. So this particular symbol represents a jaguar. But this symbol also, these two symbols combined together, also represents jaguars. So that's a symbol for Ba and La and Ma. So it was a very complex language that actually was very difficult to decipher. Now the Maya left behind a lot of written text. Unfortunately, though, many of these texts were destroyed when the Spanish conquistadors came in and wanted to really erase any traces of this sort of indigenous cultural practices, so that they ultimately could replace them with their own cultural practices. So most Maya documents were unfortunately destroyed by Spanish conquistadors, which is one reason why it took so long for the Maya language to become deciphered. It only was deciphered in like the last 50 years. The Mayas were polytheists. They worshiped multiple gods, that they were related to nature. They also had kind of unique cultural practices. So as you can see here, this would be a religious ceremony with some kind of a priest probably here and maybe a king. And we can see what's happening down here. So you see this looks like a headline here. So someone was beheaded. And then here, I'll get a close up. You see these guys with their fingernails bleeding, so their fingernails would have likely been removed as a form of bloodletting. So blood was a very important part of Mayan culture. It was believed that it was this sort of nourishing thing that the gods needed in order to replenish the world. And so even kings and queens would have to engage in bloodletting. So this is an image showing a queen pulling a rope through her tongue, and the rope has thorns on it. And so this was a common practice in order to engage in bloodletting. And not only, unfortunately, did they pierce their tongue, but they also pierced other parts as well, including their genitalia. And this, of course, led to lots of blood. So they practiced bloodletting and human sacrifice as a way of pleasing their gods. Oftentimes their sacrificial victims would be prisoners captured in war, the various warfare among these various city-states. The Mayan civilization suddenly collapsed, and the most common theory for why it collapsed was that there was a widespread drought around 850 CE. And they also had widespread deforestation as a result of cutting down a lot of the trees in order to support their civilization. So this drought was made worse by deforestation, and so many of these massive cities were eventually left vacant, although the Maya never fully, completely collapsed. So there's still pockets of people who, within Mesoamerica, even upon the arrival of the Spanish, who sort of trace their lineage and heritage back to the Maya. So the big questions you need to be able to answer after watching this video are: first, how are the Maya organized politically? And second, were the Maya bloodthirsty barbarians or sophisticated stargazers? Or maybe some unique combination of both. Alright, thanks for watching. Of the Maya civilization. So the Maya civilization formed on the Yucatan Peninsula in the Mesoamerican region during the Classical Age. So here's the Yucatan Peninsula. Now that includes modern-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize. So if you're going to buy a plane ticket to go visit some... Welcome back, young scholars. In this video, we will be discussing the Maya civilization. So the big questions that you should be able to answer after watching this video are: first, how were the Maya organized politically? And second, were the Maya bloodthirsty barbarians or sophisticated stargazers? So the first question you should be able to answer is, how are the Maya organized politically? So first of all, we need to understand the geography of Maya ruins. That's where you're going to head to, maybe Chichen Itza outside Cancun in Mexico, or maybe Tikal in Guatemala. The Maya reached their peak between 300 CE and 900 CE, which means that they were at the sort of latter end of the Classical Age and then the beginning of the age of transregional interaction. So the Maya civilization was divided into many individual city-states, like Chichen Itza and Tikal. They all shared a common language and culture, so you can see all the various city-states on this map spread out across the Yucatan Peninsula. Now the one similar thing about each of these societies is they all again shared this common language and culture. But each city-state had its own unique ruler, its own social system,